Hello, hello. Hopefully, you're all doing good. Well, over the years, I have collected action figures. Now, there were a few years in my teens in which I got out of the hobby, but I got right back into it as I got older. Now, throughout my life, I have encountered really good toy lines and really bad toy lines, but among the good have been the Jack's Bone Crunching action figures, the classic Ninja Turtle series, SH Figure Arts, just the whole general different variety of those action figures are pretty great. I remember the Hercules McDonald's toys in which it was like a 2-in-1. That it was very great as well. Then you get to the real heavy hitters. You get to your Mafex. You get to your Figmas. You get to your Rebel Techs. You get to your Toy Biz Marvel Legends for the most part. Heck, you even get to the DC Universe Classics line, which abruptly ended and it's sorely missed. And then you get to the Hasbro Marvel Legends lines for the most part. But of course, I always struggle with finding a favorite action figure line because there was just so much great stuff, and there is so much great stuff coming out right now. But most of the times that you ask me, I want to say 80% of the time that you ask me what was my favorite toy line, especially my favorite toy line as a child, nothing could beat the Beast Wars Transformers line. And this goes from someone that used to, as a kid, watch Transformers G1 reruns, obviously on Saturday, not Saturday mornings, but on weekday mornings before school. I was a big Transformers fan, and then you saw that they tried continuing the show into this kind of a spin-off, or they wanted to make it a sequel. I remember specifically original packaging on some of the action figures. They wanted to make it a direct sequel to Beast Wars, to Transformers, Beast Wars. With that in mind, it just blew my mind the fact that these 3D graphics and the show was just so awesome. And then the figures came out and they were amazing for a lot of reasons, which I will go into detail. As you can see, I got my bin out, my bin of Beast Wars. Now, it would take forever for me to review all of these figures. That's why I'm gonna whittle it down to just one figure, but I will, in passing, observe other figures because, as great as this line is, it does suffer from a mortal affliction, and it's actually a mortal affliction that affects a lot of Transformers action figures slash toys. It all started with G1 figures, and to be honest, this problem wasn't rectified up until like the second live action Michael Bay movie, Dark of the Moon. You would still find some action figures that are still afflicted by this thing, and that thing that I'm talking about is GPS. No, not the GPS that you're thinking about. GPS gold plastic syndrome. Now, what causes gold plastic syndrome, you ask? Well, it's technically an imbalance, a chemical imbalance between the paint application of the gold and the polymer and the plastic itself that kind of molds the toy in that color. The chemical imbalance pretty much causes it to doesn't cause it to it doesn't bond at a subatomic level, and slowly but surely it breaks apart. It starts to fissure, and then one day, out of the blue, boom, it just crumbles into nothing. And yes, it's a problem that affects a lot of figures, specifically the ones that are coated in this kind of gold plastic. But there are some other figures, and in particular, our main subject of this video, it's not actually casted in gold plastic, surprisingly. It's casted in this kind of like this dark brown plastic, but he is one of the more popular figures to be affected by it. And I last time I had this figure, he hadn't came apart. I have not looked at these figures since then, and that's where the fun part comes. Because you and I, we're gonna both open up and observe these figures, and if they come apart live, they come apart live. So join me as I look into the gold plastic syndrome, and specifically in review the Transmetals Beast Wars Megatron. So here we are. It's the moment of truth. like opening the Ark of the Covenant. It's beautiful. Um, these aren't GPS afflicted figures. As a matter of fact, this is one of the more recent Beast Wars related figures. This is Generations Rhinox, which is a remake of the original Rhinox. I don't own the original Rhinox, and this just shows you what Beast Wars is all about. Yes, I'll let you guys know when I actually get to like GPS figures. I'm just like running quickly through like some figures that are on top. Tigatron. This is not the Hasbro Tigatron, the Kenner / Hasbro Tigatron, because Kenner was actually the original company to publish the Beast Wars action figures. This is actually the Takara Tigatron, which is actually a more show accurate white instead of cream colored tiger. And it's a great figure. I think he's the most recent masterpiece, Transformers masterpiece, which are pretty pricey, by the way. That's about to be remade. I never owned Inferno as a kid. I recently got him, and by recently I mean a few years back. I just went back and started getting a lot of the figures that I really wanted, and he's great. Great character from the show as well. Yeah, I can't beat that. Now, Quick Strike, and I have good memories of Quick Strike. I could tell you the story of how I acquired him. I acquired him the same day I acquired Silverbolt, the Fuser Silverbolt, and maybe when I review them, I'll tell you guys that story. So, all right, let's see. I'm trying to whittle myself down, and we've gone to our first GPS figure, Torka. So Torka is said to snap off the special. Oh man, yeah. So this tail part is supposed to swivel up and down, and oh man, I'm not even gonna try. So you guys see right here, that's, oh shit. Oh my god. Yeah, it broke off. Holy fuck. Oh my god. Yeah, that's GPS for you. Look, it's not supposed to break that off that easily, and yeah. Oh man. It's okay though. It's okay though. Nothing a little glue won't fix. Oh, you guys think I'm lying about this? I'm not lying about this. Might wind up losing all my figures now. Okay. Classic Silverbolt. No, that one does not suffer from GPS. Holy shit. But this guy does. Grimlock. And he particularly suffers from GPS in the knee area. But we seem to be good on this. He seems to be good. He seems to be sturdy. Not coming apart at all. We're good. We're good. So, yeah, 2 out of, 1 out of 2 figures so far have not broken on me, so that's good. Oh man, I'm nervous now. If I remember, another GPS figure is the Magnabox Silverbolt, which is an eagle, and I'm looking for him right now. Oh man. There he is. Oh, Prowl lost his leg. He's the part of the Magnaboss. But he is perfectly fine. So this is the other guy, and they say particularly these wings, because it's kind of like this gold plastic, but it's safe to say that is, oh man, I don't. Okay, see this one opens perfectly, so this one's good. This one doesn't, and I feel it's the gold plastic already. Oh shit! Oh my god! Oh my god! That was scary. It literally like cracks. Oh my god. So many, this is a Generations Rat Trap, a remake of the original Rat Trap, and it's such great. That's not a GPS figure. Just so nervous. Can't you see how nervous I am? Oh my god. But I think those are the four main figures, at least from this line, that break away. I'm kind of glad only one. Yeah, I'm kind of glad only one broke. And now we get. Oh my god. Here it is. The subject of the video. This is Transmetals Megatron, and if he breaks right now, oh my god, it's. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Okay. So. Yeah. So pretty much, this is the death zone for Megatron. They say that this little ring right here, for some odd reason, gives out, and that's it for him pretty much. So if this area breaks, the whole, like, the figure just gets cut in half. But yeah, this is his dinosaur hands. Dinosaur. You know, I find it kind of odd that a lot of plastic is sculpted by petroleum, which is obviously dinosaur, like dinosaur residue, dinosaur fossil residue, fossil fuel. A lot of a lot of the petroleum is actually converted into plastic. So I always find it ironic how dinosaurs, figures, toys, what you call it, of dinosaurs get molded from fossil fuels. It's very it's very interesting fact. Oh man, I'm so bummed. I'm not gonna lie, I'm so bummed about Torka's leg, but it's okay. It's okay. I'll just have to glue it back together. Not fuck with it anymore. Poor Torka. Yeah. But I'm glad Megatron for the most part seems fine. So we'll be able to review him. See, that's as much as I want to turn him, because I don't want him to crack. But yeah, this is the first time I unveiled Megatron. This is the first time I've observed him, and yeah, let's go in with an in-depth review, and I'll talk about him and how I got him the same day I actually got him, and that's a pretty interesting story. So I'll see you in a bit, guys. So here he stands, the leader of the Predacons himself, large and in charge. It's Megatron, as it's nicely painted right here on the side. And nope, that paint has still not faded away. This figure is, of course, Mega Class, which is the third size variant. And I believe nowadays, under the new Transformer size designations, he would be a Voyager class. Now, the things about Mega Class is that they were among the worst selling Transformers action figures. And I'm not gonna lie, I could attest to that. There were plenty of Optimus Primals and Megatron Transmetals that sat on store shelves. No one knows why. The price point seemed fine to me. If I remember correctly, the price point was like $15, $15 to $20, whereas basics were $5 and deluxe were $9.99, or some variation of that. I never understood why mega classes never sold well. Maybe it was the fact that they took up too much retail space, or toy stores used to order too many of them. But regardless, mega classes never sold well, but that made them easier to find for collectors or just fans of the show, as I was as a kid. I really didn't care much about about collecting the figures then. And I am shocked that he is in such a good condition. But then again, I always loved the Beast Wars line, and I always took good care of the Beast Wars, my Beast Wars action figures. Now this Megatron, of course, he is not related to the G1 Megatron, the one from the G1 TV show that turned into a gun and later on turned into a tank and later on turned into Galvatron, or if you know him from the Michael Bay movies, he's not that Megatron. He's a descendant actually. He's a descendant because Beast Wars takes place in the future of the Transformers canon. But remember how I mentioned at the start of the video how they wanted to make Beast Wars a direct sequel and they wanted to actually have Megatron from G1 be this guy. Originally, they did have him in the packaging and they did sold the original Megatron, but he was this guy right here in alligator form, who was sold in a 2-pack with a Bat Optimus Primal. And yes, this is the one I owned as a kid. And I have the Optimus Primal, and yes, this 2-pack was actually the first ever Beast Wars that I ever owned. Now let's get into some articulation on this Megatron, the Mega Megatron. Beast Wars, they, in my opinion, helped. They just helped standardize multiple articulation points because I feel before Beast Wars came along, it was very uncommon to see so many hinges at the elbows or in the knees, and most figures, even the original Transformers figures, for the most part, relied so much on just the big 5 articulation. It's just a swivel up, swivel down on the appendages, and of course a turning of the head. But of course, you have the Transformer line, the Beast Wars Transformer line comes, and not only are they giving you these great animal molds that transform into these great robots, but they have these joints that are just amazing. And of course, the best part of it is the ball joint system. I had not seen it on many figures before, and you don't see it that much nowadays, but the ball joints is pretty much this right here. Pretty much pressure is applied on the point right there that's able to just snap it on, and that prevents a lot of breakage on action figures. As a matter of fact, the reason I'm not doing that on that is because I don't want to risk this guy breaking. But pretty much, and not only did it provide you with the security of not having your figures break that easily, but for battle scenes, it's like, oh, they shot his arm off. It was just amazing for its time, very revolutionary for its time, and it gave you more articulation points. It just made the figures much more posable, and I think that helped set the standard. That obviously Toy Biz just took it up to an extreme, and now you have figures that are just so articulated. Whether you talk about the Elite series from Mattel, the WWE Elite series, or you talk about the Mafex, what they do with their superheroes, or even the Mescos, the Mescos 112s with their multiple articulation points above cloth clothing. And it's just amazing how I feel, yes, a lot of G2 Transformers figures had this type of ball joint and this type of articulation, but I feel that it's all due to Beast Wars. Beast Wars were the ones that popularized it. Beast Wars are the ones that should take the credit for it. And yeah, nothing much could be said about that. Look, it's just you get multiple articulation and all these hinges. It came apart. But guess what? You could just slap it back on, and it's good as new. There you go. See? And yeah, Beast Wars are owed a lot of credit for just doing that, popularizing that. And of course, he doesn't have that much articulation compared to like modern figures. Your standard Marvel Legends will probably beat it in that category. But for its time, I'm talking about the Beast Wars line started in '96, and this figure was released in '98. And I did buy this figure in '98, and yeah, you did not see this type of articulation on any figures, and this rotation on just the limbs, you did not see that. You didn't, it's amazing. It's you look at that. It's look, you did not have this type of articulation, this type of movement on figures, this type of posability. A great debt is owed to Beast Wars, and in particular, the this ball joint. It's just it's amazing. Not much more else to say. Now, I would transform him into his robot mode, but I don't want to risk any more breakage. I heard that's where you probably encounter a lot of the problems. The fact that you need to rotate him, and I'd rather not risk rotation and breaking him off even more than he has to. And yeah, if he was a lot more safer to transform, yes, you definitely would see me transforming him, but I'm not gonna risk it with this guy. He is worth too much. If this guy were to break, my only other option would be the Takara Japanese manufactured version, who, strangely enough, has a slightly different color scheme, a slightly darker color scheme, and he does not have that problem, that GPS problem, especially right here in the center. So if you're collecting them, I would highly recommend you just get the Takara version. It's a lot more expensive, yes, than this guy, but you always have that ease of mind that he's never gonna break, or at least not gonna break for a long time. That's why in my moment of meditation as I was setting up this new shot, yeah, am I bummed out about Torka's tail breaking apart? Yeah, but the thing is, it was inevitable. That's the one thing you need to know about GPS, and that's the one thing you need to know about action figures in general. They're all gonna break. They're all gonna break down eventually. It's just due to GPS, these figures break down in the span of sometimes they break off within 5 years. Sometimes it takes 20 years. It doesn't matter, but they are gonna break down eventually. All figures are gonna break down eventually. It's just GPS speeds it up by a lot, rather than have an action figure break down in the span of like 200 years, or less, more or less. They break down in 5 to 20 years. But it's okay, everything ends at one point, and I did not want to turn this into philosophical kind of thing, but I kind of did. But yeah. So the whole point of the Transmetals line was to kind of reverse what they were doing for their first two series, in which they would have organic animal forms and kind of more metal looking robotic forms. They flipped the script, as they would say, and you had these metallic looking animal forms and these organic looking robot forms, and I believe they pulled it off pretty nicely. A lot of my favorite figures in my collection are actually Transmetals. I really like the Transmetals Tarantulas. I believe he is one of the better figures. If I could reach for him real quickly and just show him off, just for you guys to see, it's this guy. He is just amazing, just great paint job to this day. Amazing figure, amazing posability. Everything on him is almost articulated. It's just such a great figure for the arachnid ninja spy. With that in mind, the turbines. Who could forget the turbines on Megatron that gave him flight, and of course his roller skates for his third mode, because that's the big gimmick of Transmetals. They were promising a third vehicle mode, but most of the time it fell flat, in my opinion. The whole vehicle mode thing, they never pulled it off successfully. I think the most successful recipient of the third mode was probably Rat Trap, who grew like wheels on his side and turned into a dragster car. But that's about it concerning the Transmetals and their vehicle forms. I don't think it was ever effectively used, and it was a nice gimmick, though. It was a nice gimmick. I feel the Transmetal paint is what sold the figures. except the Megas, they did not sell well at all. um, but yeah, I'm rambling now, and I guess I shall conclude this with a story. Oh, and let's just show you his accessory. His Dino tail doubled as a kind of like a, I called it like a sword, like a sword, like. But I don't. And the show, he would always like flick it around, and he would shoot like beams out of it right here. But yeah, it's just uh, it's just a great figure all around. And yes, this is the one from my childhood, and I have good memories alongside this guy. I guess I could tell you guys that these figures, I never planned on getting them the day I got them. I still remember the day like if it was yesterday. It was sometime in 1998. It was a summer day in 1998. I want to say like July. And I was actually looking for Cybershark, who I never owned as a kid. I never owned Cybershark as a kid, but I always thought he looked cool. And I would always look for him. I would always go to like Kmart. Well, my mom used to take me to Kmart, and we would always go look, see what figures we would find. And to my surprise, I went to Kmart one time, Kmart that's no longer open anymore, and found this guy, and it just blew my mind, the fact that a guy that looked like Dinobot but wasn't Dinobot was being sold, and it was Grimlock. And at the time I was a kid. I did not know that there was restrictions on the casts of the characters. I always expected more characters to show up from the line, but a lot of the characters never made it. Cybershark technically never made it onto the show. Um, and I always wanted Grimlock to come out, and I remember there was this one episode in which Megatron made like these white raptor drones, and I thought that was gonna be Grimlock, but no, it was a self-contained episode. Those drones never transform into robots. Plus, Grimlock is a Maximal; he's a good guy. So I did not know why, as a kid, I thought Grimlock was gonna premiere, but that's me being a kid, I guess. And yeah, but we went to go look for Cybershark at Kmart, and we could not find him. But we found Grimlock, and I bought Grimlock, and I still wanted Cybershark, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget how, um, I would always ask. I would always ask if we could always go look for one more place, see if we could find, and my mom would be kind enough to take me to one more place, and that other place was Toys R Us. And to my surprise, we went to Toys R Us, and yeah, Megas did not sell, because we found boxes upon boxes. I remember like it was back in the day, you had a video game section where you would get like a sticker out from Toys R Us, like a piece of paper from Toys R Us, and then you would have to take that somewhere else to get to exchange it for the video game. And I remember on the aisle next over to that section was the Transmetals, the Beast Wars Transmetals, and underneath one of the bottom shelves was just rows upon rows of Megatron and Optimus Primal's Transmetals. And yeah, I ended up getting those as well that day. It's something that I'll never forget. It's something that lives with me forever, and I am eternally grateful. And that concludes story time, and that concludes this figure. I wish I could have been more keen on keeping the boxes, because I really do like the whole like the Transmetals packaging, and the Beast Wars packaging itself was amazing. But a lot of those packages, I tore through them and easily disposed of them. And yeah, but if you guys ever manage to see Megatron Transmetals in the package, just check it out. That purple grid, I still remember that purple grid, like if it was yesterday, like the grid lines and all that. But yeah, that's it about the review. I just have a few last words, but that's about it, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Thank you again for sticking around and watching the conclusion of this video. I never knew that a hunk of plastic could invoke 20-year-old memories of good times, but I guess it's true what they say about them. They are more than meets the eye. See what I did there? In all seriousness, thank you, and peace and love as always. Now, for my next review, I don't know. Might need to just stand back and see what it might be. Later, guys. Thank you.